Now we are back with part two of the undoing of Trump's squattency. Um, I had to stop the video when I was in the middle of talking on one because I had to go do something. But let's get back to where I was at. Basically, this guy Morris, David Morris, had observed saying that he had seen a lot of white nationalism during his 8 years serving in the military. And basically he said it essentially bookended his career for the military. Like the Republican Party, the U.S. military has for years coddled, looked the other way, winked at, joked about, and generally not taken white nationalism seriously enough in its ranks for a very long time. But the Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin ordered the military to focus on the issue in a staggered pause of operations over the next 2 months, the Pentagon said this week. When Michelle Duster watched the riot, she thought of her great grandmother Ida Wells, who exposed a wave of lynchings of Black Americans. Basically, as she watched a mob of the unpatriotic people storm the Capitol with minimal law enforcement present, the fact that some of the vigilantes had plastic zip ties and weapons and walked away unharmed, and it was mind-boggling. It reminded me of how mobs in the late 19th and early 20th centuries gathered to participate in and watch the lynchings of black people, take pictures of each other's gleeful faces, and convert them into postcards, and absolutely no one was arrested for murder. Um, the Capitol Police officer, Brian Sicknick, had died during the riot. This week, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden paid their respects as Sicknick's body was lying in honor in the Capitol's rotunda. Former police officer Peter Moskos wrote of the oath to uphold the Constitution that he and hundreds of thousands of the other officers have taken. The sworn oath is not symbolic, it is both a sacrifice and a privilege. It is real and binding, and Officer Sicknick, along with his fellow sworn officers, fought literally to defend the Constitution, and upholding their oath, they may have saved America, in that there is nobility. Um, before there was this woman named Amanda Gorman, the poet who captivated America at the inauguration, there was Phyllis Whitley, who was an enslaved American whose poetry was published in 1773 in London, and it was noted by Manisha Sinha. A genius by any standard, Wheatley was educated by her enslavers who had lost a daughter her age. Wheatley had learned to speak English and Latin and wrote her first poem 4 years later. So remarkable was the story of the young slave poet that a bevy of Boston worthies, including John Hancock, examined her and testified to the authenticity of her poems to confirm what many surely doubted, and that a young enslaved black girl could produce such polished work, or polished, basically, sorry. There was also unabashed racist criticism from Thomas Jefferson and others. Amid nearly universal praise, Gorman's work has been the target of a takedown in The Spectator, which Sinha called staggeringly patronizing. She added, Gorman shares Wheatley's clear-eyed view of the trials that black people faced in the slave-holding republic. But this year's Black History Month has special resonance, wrote Peniel Joseph, at a critical time it offers the nation a window into its own soul. If we are only courageous enough to look, the racial disparities so terribly evident in the COVID-19 pandemic and the most divisive presidential election in American history are rooted in circumstances that can best be explained, and it can be explained, analyzed, and interrogated through the lens of Black history. In a Moscow courtroom, against a backdrop of street protests, Russian opposition leader um, Alexei Navalny was sentenced Tuesday to 2.5 years in prison, but the former world chess champion Garry Kasparov had wrote his supposed crime was a probation violation committed while he was in a coma in Berlin after being poisoned by the same state security forces that have locked him up again. The Western governments were swift to condemn Vladimir Putin's regime for the treatment of Navalny. Those denunciations would be hardening if they did not sound nearly identical to those issued when Navalny was poisoned last August, Kasparov noted. But with every act of appeasement, Putin has gone from a local problem to a regional menace to a global threat. Germany thinks it can criticize Russia on human rights while going ahead with the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline that will fill Putin's pockets with cash and his military's guns with bullets. And those bullets are used against Europeans in Ukraine and, God forbid, against Russians in the streets. And Europe thinks it can separate business and politics, but to Putin, it's all the same business. Also, to throw it in here, the Super Bowl was yesterday, even though I didn't watch it because I don't give a shit about football. But Tom Brady won won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, and it's his seventh ring. Yesterday's Super Bowl will have the Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes basically, and that led their team on the field. Amanda Gorman will read the poem. The weekend, the weekend will perform at halftime, which he did, but you won't see it. But what you won't see is an ad for Budweiser, which is taking a pass in the Super Bowl for the first time in 37 years. Basically, the beer giant Bush is donating to the vaccine education initiative and releasing a 90-second, and they released a 90-second digital ad encouraging people to embrace the vaccination. So the move by Budweiser is big, and it gives humanitarian organizations like mine hope and optimism. It is also shrewd, but they must have calculated that investing in the public service would be good for the brand, and in turn it would be good for the business, regardless of their motivation. They are doing the right thing. So here's my fucking question: who will join them in these unprecedented times with unprecedented threats and vast disparities between those who are thriving and those who are barely surviving? Who among the wealthiest corporations will join Budweiser?